Welcome to The Herbal Ire, your podcast on all things holistic health, medical astrology, spirituality, herbalism, and so much more. Presented by your host, Ire Atla, medical astrologist, herbalist, and naturopath. Let's dive right into today's topic, love and light. Hi everyone, and welcome back to The Herbal Ire. I'm your host, Ire Atla. And today we are going to be talking about Sagittarius. I am super excited to talk about Sagittarius. It is a wonderful sign. I have many friends that are Sagittarians. I have a stellium in Sagittarius, as does my partner, so that's fun. And so we just, I have a really close place in my heart for Sagittarius, and I just really can't wait to talk about them. Sagittarius tends to be like an adventurous, outgoing, fun-loving people person sign. People love to be around them. I have several clients that are native Sages in my business, and they are like such a joy to be around. Like they literally just make you smile all the time. And they're great. So let's dive in deep and see what's all about Sagittarius today. So first off, let's talk about the glyph, Sagittarius's glyph, Sagittarius's. That sounds ridiculous, but I don't know. I think it's right. We're going with it. The glyph for Sagittarius, there we go, is an arrow pointing diagonally to the right with a horizontal line through the bottom part. So it basically looks very similar to like an arrow that is on like a bow in a way. There's just minus the little curved bowy part in the front. It is represented by the archer, right? Because it's why it's an arrow. It's the sign of the archer. So in this particular case, it typically is represented as a centaur who just happens to also be an archer. If you don't know what a centaur is, it is a half human, half horse, like hybrid type creature where the head of the horse, the neck of the horse usually is the torso of a person, and then the arms of a person and the chest and the head and the face and right of a person, and then the back half, from the torso down, is all like the rest of the horse, the legs, the back, the tail, all that. So that is typically how you see Sagittarius being represented. Through the glyph, we can see it actually is more about the arrow, though. The arrow is the arrow that shoots straight and true to the heart of a matter. Native Sagittarians do not pull any punches usually, and so you see many demonized as children because of their blunt honesty. And this brings up issues later in life, right? Because, that's how that works. We will be talking about that in the high and low expression. Sagittarius season is November 21st through December 21st. It is the season of fall or autumn ending and winter beginning, hence the changing nature of Sagittarius. Sagittarians are wonderful. When they get excited about something, they will be all gung-ho about that, but then something new will capture their fancy and they'll immediately turn and go toward that. So for some people, they feel like they're very wishy-washy, flippy-floppy type people, but that's just really not it. Sagittarius just finds the joy in everything and likes to run toward whatever is more joyful for them at that moment. There is literally nothing wrong with being a person who finds joy in everything and runs toward the joy at the moment instead of, sticking to one thing. There is no rule in life that says you have to only do one fucking thing all the time forever and ever. Please don't listen to that. Society lies to you about that. If you don't enjoy doing the same thing forever and ever, it's okay. Go do something else. You'll be fine, I promise. All right, on to the mode then. As mentioned already, well, actually I didn't mention it, did I? I don't think I did. I said that it's a changeable sign, so maybe that will count. I didn't say mutable, but Sagittarius is a mutable sign. It's the bringer of one season into a new one, which is what all the mutable signs are, right? It's the changing of seasons. And this one is really focusing about bringing about a person who is seen as someone who is always changing or unable to focus, like I said, which is far from the truth, right? They just don't waste time focusing on things that they deem unimportant and that ultimately a lot of times in the grand scheme of things are not important. They're completely correct about them. We don't need to focus on just that one thing. They love to learn new things and try new things and adventure on all kinds of different ways of doing that, right? Trains, planes, automobiles, boats, you name it, backpacking across, wherever. They just love to do and try different things. And so they appear outwardly to other people very flip-floppy, but they're truly not. They're just focusing on what is important to them in that moment. I guess you could say it's very like childlike wonder in a way. Have you ever met a kid who is 100% truly just a kid who's not, you know, worried about society yet, looking at them funny or thinking that they're weird, who just is in their element? They have that childlike wonder where everything is fantastic and amazing and they love it, and they are just such fun people to be around. They find joy in everything, and that is legitimately what Sagittarians are like. They're just filled with that childlike wonder for everything that they learn about, they know about, they see, and they just want to go explore and know it all. Sagittarius is a fire sign, but it's the last of the fire signs that we come to. So it is kind of like the warm fire that one makes after spending a lot of time outside in the cooler, cold fall air, and the kind of fire that one would make on winter solstice, right? To like welcome the light back on the longest night of the year and keep the light going when it gets dark so early sometimes in the winter, right? So that you can, continue with whatever thing you were doing that day for fun or otherwise. It's different from Aries and Leo in how it expresses itself. So, Sagittarius, being a mutable sign, burns through things quickly and moves forward in a new or different direction. Whereas when we learned about Aries, we saw that Aries, being a cardinal fire sign, loves to initiate things, right? It burns bright and hot right at the beginning, and then gets things started and then passes them on to someone else to like complete. They are really good at starting things, not necessarily super good at finishing things. Leos are fixed fire, so they're a lot more stable. So they're like, Aries gets things started, Leo keeps things burning, and then Sagittarius like finishes it so that they can move on to something else. They're like, hey, let's just get this out of the way and be done with it because I'm tired of looking at it, right? I don't want to do this thing anymore. It's not fun anymore. I've lost all my joy in it, so I'm going to just finish it quickly, get it out of the way, get it done, and move on to something more fun. So we really kind of see the difference in the fire signs. They're all fire signs, and they're all very fiery, but in different ways. And that's how we see them expressed in people as well. And we also can see Sagittarius as like the completion of the transformation that we saw in Scorpio, right? So if you remember, Scorpio is associated with the phoenix or the eagle because of Scorpio's ability to rise from the ashes and soar up into a new plane. Sagittarius then is the completion of this, right? As they move into new heights of the air together, new perspective. So you've transformed into that person that you're supposed to be, right? And now you're getting up higher into the air to gain that new perspective that you need as this new you when you get to Sagittarius. Sagittarius seeks like the new, right? Any new of anything, new with fervor and commitment, and wants to understand the truth of life from all the heights, everything. And it's like same as like the arrow that the archer slings up high into the air. That's what we get with Sagittarius, that new perspective of seeing the bigger picture and what we can now do since we have transformed through Scorpio. You might not be shocked to know this, and you might be, but Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the joyful giant planet. It is a very energetically like happy planet, right? Like it provides a lot of joy and wonder into people's lives. It's a gas giant and it's constantly expanding its reach and reaching for new places. So Jupiter represents our greatest joys in life and the things that we absolutely love to do the most. It rules over Sagittarius, so we really see this in native Sagittarians, right? New adventures, new information. Native Sagittarians are lifelong learners. These are the people that you will see like as the perpetual students, right? They are always enrolled in some course, some school, something, right? That will give them new and exciting information to add into their consciousness. And then in turn be able to, you know, put it out into the world. So the key word here in this case is I perceive. We have a flame alive in the heart, but the mutable winds in the mind, which doesn't always come together neatly. Let's just say that. Through Sagittarius, we really can perceive life clearly and accurately. And we also will then constantly seek new experiences, new travels, and new expansions in our mind. So we're always perceiving, right, like something from our perspective, our way of looking at things, or in many cases from a higher perspective, right? Like, how does this look for the greater good, the, you know, everybody on the planet, not just, me in particular, kind of a thing. So they're always, always, always looking for the new, which is why to many people they seem like they're constantly just flippy floppy and don't know what they're doing because they go from one thing to another so quickly. But again, that's okay. We need people like that, right? We need people to want to move from one thing to another quickly and show us that A, not only is it okay for us to be that way, but B, they open up our perspective to look at things differently. And why are we spending so much time on, insert whatever, if it's not bringing us joy anymore, right? If it's not bringing us joy and we're absolutely fucking miserable doing it, why are we doing it? And that is what Sagittarius literally brings into the zodiac is why are we doing X if it's not bringing us joy any longer in our lives? If you're at a job that is absolutely making you miserable and wrecking your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, Sagittarius asks you to look inside of yourself and say, why the fuck am I staying here? I'm miserable. I hate this job. It's not bringing me any joy. Why am I here? Let me find something new, right? And go look for whatever that new thing is that will make you happy. And then again, if in a few years that new thing is no longer making you happy, then you move on to something new. There is so much in society that says that you have to go pick something that you like, this be it job, hobby, musical instrument, and then stick with it for the next 30 years or something's wrong with you. Fuck that shit. Just fuck it all. No, no. If you start to say, let's learn to play the violin, and you find after I don't know, a month or two of lessons where you're finally starting to get a little bit better, it's not such a struggle, and you still absolutely fucking hate it, then go do something else. Go play a different musical instrument. Or hell, you've played the violin for 10 years and now it's no longer bringing you joy and you want to try something different. It's okay to move on. It's okay to not pick something and then stick with it for 30 years, right? There used to be such a push, and there still kind of is in a way, to pick a job when you're 18 and then stick with it until you retire at 62. I don't know about you, but when I was 18, I didn't know what the fuck I wanted in life, and there was no way in hell that what I picked at 18, I was going to want to still be doing at 60 something, right? And so, with all that Sagittarius in my chart, I'm very much this is not working anymore. I'm not happy. Let's go somewhere else. And I do, and I have. And I love that part about me, that I am not willing to put up with that bullshit and being unhappy and saying what society right is telling me that I should do and sticking with it even if it's making me miserable. Nope. Peace out. Let's go somewhere else. And that is really what we can truly learn in a lot of ways from Sagittarius, is just doing what makes you happy even if it makes no sense to anybody else. So Sagittarius then rules the hips and the thighs, the sciatic nerve, and it co-rules or kind of is the coordinator of the central nervous system with Gemini. So Gemini kind of is the actual central nervous system and how it connects to everything, and Sagittarius really kind of coordinates then how that movement happens, right? It also rules the coccyx, which is the medical term for the tailbone. So we see a lot of times in many Sagittarians, a lot of their issues that I have found stem from hip issues, thigh issues, tailbone issues, or something going on with their central nervous system that's leading to a lot of anxiety or anything that's kind of, related to their nervous system in some way. And so those are a lot of things that I tend to notice that I help with the most when I see native Sagittarians. Um, Myself with the stellium in Sagittarius, stellium is 3 or more planets in one location in the chart, one sign in the chart. Um, so what I've noticed is that I do have a lot of the like hip and knee and sciatica type problems that come from Sagittarius, mainly because my Sagittarius is like right on the cusp of my 6th house of health. And so a lot of my health issues come from that because it's right there. Uh, so I noticed that a lot, and personally with me, and then my partner has a stellium as well in Sagittarius, and I noticed that he has a lot of knee issues. Now, part of that could be that, he played rugby for years, and that's really hard on your knees. But I think the other part as well is just that that's going to tend to be a weak spot, his legs, right? Because of all of that uh, Sagittarius there. He always tends to have problems with like his hips, his knees, or his like thighs in some way, right? Now, Capricorn rules the knees officially, um, and his Capricorn is located in, oh God, I want to say his Capricorn is in, no, it's not. His Capricorn is, I forget what planet it's in. Never mind, don't quote me on any of that. But he does have a lot of those things, same Sagittarius things, and so do I. So moving on to the high expression. In their high expression, native Sagittarians have minds that are like really inspired. They're constantly exploring new concepts, ideas, philosophies, like beliefs, values, and minds that are uplifted, right? They are optimistic and they tend to view life as like the glass half full type mentality. And they can truly see the bigger picture because of their tendency to fly high above, right? Like the arrow from the archer's bow. They focus on the future, they can see things from a different perspective, though at times this can also lead to them like losing sight of the details. So native Sagittarians have a hard time coming up with a plan and action steps because they are more focused on like the end results, right? Unlike Virgo, who definitely has a plan but loses sight of the big picture sometimes, right? So we can see how all the signs work together for the greater good of each person, right? And society as a whole. So we need people with predominant Virgo natures as much as we need people with a predominant Sagittarius nature, and we need them to be able to work together to come up with a plan with action steps and then someone to help focus on the bigger picture. Sagittarians in their high expression tend to be highly enthusiastic, friendly. Being ruled by Jupiter also leads them to be prone to being quite jovial, so they tend to have great senses of humor. And you see many comedians that are native Sagittarians or have a high Sagittarius influence in their chart, like with my stellium and that kind of thing, right? Gemini is the polar opposite sign of Sagittarius. So in Gemini, we really see individuals who are concerned about like gaining knowledge for the sake of gaining knowledge and then disseminating it to the collective. Whereas in Sagittarius, we see people that are concerned with gaining knowledge for the wisdom of like the heart, of just knowing it for themselves, of bringing something from their mind into their heart and transforming it into something greater. So Gemini is like the information part, right? And Sagittarius is the philosophy. So they think on things more deeply. They really question reality. They seek the truth in all things. They understand life in a way that no one else can, and they are great at transformation. Many tend to be extroverted when they're in their high expression. Not always, but it's just a tendency that I've noticed. They love to take risks, and it usually turns out in their favor thanks to Jupiter and its bestowing of good luck, right, and fortune on people. They value freedom and independence in all things, so this can make certain things difficult, which is why you see so many Sagittarians that have their own businesses. They're stand-up comedians and kind of in turn work for themselves, right? They like to travel a lot, and they're like digital nomads because they don't want to be tied down to one place or one person or one thing. Um, you'll notice a lot tend to be single for a really long time in their life, if not forever. They don't like feeling tied down to another person or like stuck, right? Where again, they've made a choice and they don't want, and then, 10 months later, 10 years later, they want to do something new. They don't like that feeling of being stuck. So sometimes that can lead to issues, which we'll talk about in the low expression. But they do just really value freedom and independence. They love to explore new territories for life. They're spiritually, emotionally, physically as well. Young Sagittarians tend to be restless and they really want to seek to expand their horizon and their view of things, whereas the older ones tend to really seek to expand their spiritual self, right? They've done all that worldly fun stuff. They've gone out, they've done all the new adventures, and now they're seeking to like grow who they are as a person and their spiritual side. So you'll see that in older Sagittarians, they tend to be more calm. So if you have a Sagittarian in your life who is on the, considered like the older Sagittarian, I don't mean old, just older, then you might notice your brother, they don't act like that. They're really calm and they're really good at being like in one spot and doing one thing, and that's because they've learned their life lessons and now they're working more on the opposite of Jupiter, right? Of learning to be joyful in one place, learning to love, maybe not moving as much or whatever, right? So they kind of tend to move more inward instead of outward as they age. In their low expression, though, we find Sagittarians that become really ungrounded. They lose sight of the big picture and the important details. They become flighty. They become unable to integrate their knowledge gained into their hearts from their minds. They become over philosophical, and so it gets into the way of reality. Their walk does not match their talk. They value freedom, same as their high expression cousins do, right? But when the low expression, this tends to lead to a difficult time in relationships. They tend to feel trapped, they feel caged. Loving someone feels like a prison sentence instead of freedom. They do not have the ability to learn how to balance love and individual personal freedom and become mean and manipulative many times. They need to learn how to maintain their personal sense of freedom through travel, alone time, and time in nature to help reground themselves, and it's super imperative that they do those things. If they don't, then they will turn into those mean, manipulative partners that nobody wants in life, right? They especially need time near bodies of water because it can really help quench some of that mutable fire energy. But they need that alone time, they need that freedom feeling, right? These are the ones that may be in a very healthy, happy relationship, but you see them going on solo trips places, doing solo things, spending a lot of alone time. And many people would be like, how does that relationship work? But you know what? It works great for a Sagittarian. If they don't get that, then it doesn't work, right? And they start getting in the opposite problem and they have problems. So if you have a lot of Sagittarius in your chart, if you are a native Sagittarian or you have a lot of Sagittarius energy, you might notice that you just need a lot of alone time in like nature and away from people. And you love to travel and you want to sometimes do it by yourself. You don't want to always take somebody with you, right? Sometimes you just want to go by yourself. These are the people that you'll see like backpacking solo around the earth and don't seem to care that they're all by themselves, right? They need that. They absolutely 100% need that to be healthy in mind, body, and spirit. And when they don't get it, they become mean, manipulative, anxious, depressed, and it leads to a lot of issues in their relationships. Sometimes in their low expression, or many times, it depends on the Sagittarian, of course, they lack discipline and organization. So they become more like their polar sign Gemini, right? When this happens, they lose the ground, which they very much need to embody their truth. And then really strongly impacts their nervous system. Native Sagittarians in their low expression tend to be anxious, depressed, fear the future, lack the ability to see into the future, and or lose their optimism. They need to really learn to, again, focus on the big picture, but also learn to get some of those details in there like Virgo and not be so flighty like Gemini tends to be because it's an air sign, right? So lots of time outside in nature, grounding themselves. Walk barefoot on the earth. Going to the beach and walking barefoot or some place where you can easily walk barefoot without too much fear of like, stepping on things you don't want to is really imperative for Sagittarians. I always say near a source of water because that seems to work really good for many of them, again, helping to kind of calm that fiery energy, right? But somewhere that you can do that. It doesn't have to be near a water source, somewhere that makes you happy and peaceful, right? They need plenty of movement in their life. And in their low expression, they tend to stop moving, which then snowballs the health issues and problems that they're having, because movement is vital for their health, and they tend toward either burning their systems out from too much movement or burning them out from not enough, or pushing their systems with too much and not knowing when to quit, and then, burning things out. So there, as you see, there tends to be a tendency in Sagittarians to do either too little or too much, and it's no in between a lot of times. They tend to go wholeheartedly into everything, and they burn themselves out because they don't give themselves any breaks. And that's a fire sign problem in general. Aries does the same thing. Leos do the same thing, right? Because it's all that fire, go, 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 masculine, active energy that just wants to keep moving and not stop. And so that tends to them burning themselves out. And then they don't want to do anything, right? So needing to learn how to balance movement with stillness is a very necessary part for low expression Sagittarians to help move into their higher expression. Some in their low expression can be prone to overindulgence in many things, right? Thanks to their rulership by Jupiter, which is all about expansion and adding more things and, whatever brings you joy, which can sometimes lead to not great habits and things, right? Jupiter definitely believes that more of a good thing is good and never bad. And that's not always true, which we all know. That's why there's a saying that more of a good thing is not always good, right? Because it's not. And so in this way, if they're in their low expression and they're really leaning into that, more is better, Jupiter expression, they wind up becoming addicts of some kind. Alcoholics, substance abusers tend to be the most common, but it can be in other ways as well, right? It can actually extend into overuse and even abuse of like ceremonial plant medicine as well. These will be the people that every other week are doing some kind of like, ceremonial medicine where they go somewhere and they're trying this one or they're doing that one, or the ayahuasca, herb that many people like to use for these ceremonies, which works great for this type of stuff. Yes, but you'll see the Sagittarians that are doing it like every day, every other day. And that's not how that stuff is meant to be used, right? It's really meant to be in a ceremonial type use. And ceremonies typically don't come around every other day, right? Most times ceremonies are celebrating big life events, holidays of some sort. And as we all know, those don't come around very frequently for good reason. And so they can tend to get into even that. They can even tend to be, abusive to good things. Like ceremonial plant medicine is a great tool and avenue, right, to help you reach like higher planes in your mind. And they can get stuck in wanting that like higher enlightenment and seeking for it and that philosophical stuff, but they want to skip the part of doing the inner deep work that Scorpio has shown us is really necessary for transformation. Scorpio is all about, girl, you got to embrace that dark side of yours. You got to learn to live with that shadow. You got to learn to love it. Let's transform that negative into a positive. Let's keep going. Sagittarius wants to skip that whole part and just get to the I'm better, transformed already part, right? And so sometimes in their low expression, they can tend toward trying to find the like shortcuts to get there. And ceremonial plant medicine can be considered sometimes to be like kind of a shortcut in that case, where it helps enlighten and open your mind in a way that you might have trouble getting to otherwise. And so they can get addicted in a way to that feeling of feeling like they've moved forward in their life, but they haven't actually, they haven't done the work necessary. Some may also become the very classic, like know-it-all personality type. They become arrogant, abrasive. Many have like messiah complexes. Fanaticism can become common, and religious fanaticism especially can become really common here with many Sagittarians. I see that for some reason. I don't know what it is, the philosophical nature of a lot of religions, if that's what like tends to draw them in, but they tend to get in and then again with their mutability just go all in and that fire energy and just like burn themselves out believing this, this system, this religion is 100% true, and they can become pretty fanatical in how they're talking to you about it and trying to get you to do the same thing as them. And a lot of times in their low expression they tend toward like imprisoning themselves into something instead of that freedom that they really desire. And I see that happening a lot. They get imprisoned in their beliefs, they get imprisoned in their addictions, they become imprisoned in, like, I know it all and I'm better than you, and they get trapped there. And so learning to move through that, work with that shadow side, no matter how hard it is and how much you don't want to, is imperative to stopping that self imprisonment and moving forward into your high expression. Gambling problems I see commonly as well in these. So really learning to embrace their polar sign Gemini and all of its wisdom, because Gemini loves information. So being able to find information that helps them move toward that higher plane and a way that they can, use it best to their ability really helps. It helps them shift into their higher selves, right? So the herbs that we associate with Sagittarius. The first one that I always think of is like dandelion root. It has a very bitter quality, which is well known in the herbal world for its actions on the liver, right? When you have a bitter taste. And the bitter action on the liver, and the liver itself, is actually ruled by Jupiter. So we see the association with Sagittarius through dandelion, right? Because it transforms from a yellow flower to white seed pods, and then it uses the wind to disperse them, which is similar to the arrow flying high in the sky, right? Just like that. So that's another reason that it's associated with Sagittarius, is that it works that same way on the body and the mind. It helps move stagnant energy up and out of the body. It moves stuff from that's stuck like in that liver mid-torso area, right? Up through the limbs, through the chest, out through the head, and out of the body that way. And so it really works by distributing that stagnant energy. Another one that I like is Tulsi, also known as holy basil, depending on where you're from. It's a very warming, fiery action plant. It's used in a lot of Ayurvedic practices, especially. It works fantastically when you have an overworked, overwrought, burned out, just dead nervous system, right? Which again, we talked about, Sagittarius tends toward, because they want to do all the things and not give themselves a break. So Tulsi is an absolutely amazing herb to help with Sagittarians that are in their low expression, burned out phases, move into the high expression, more happily regulated nervous system phase, right? So absolutely fantastic herb there. Sage. There are many species of sage, all of which work pretty similarly and what we all really use them for. And they are all named sage because they help us embody our wisdom and all of the truth that we seek, right? So those are definitely Sag qualities, right? The very philosophical type quality, right? They also work well on increasing digestive fire and the circulation of the body, which many Sagittarians need. Many Sagittarians get stuck in either overeating or not eating enough because they have either the overindulgence of Jupiter, which is like, let's just eat all the things, or they tend toward the, I've done all the things, I'm go, 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 I just need to keep going, and they forget to eat, right, and take care of themselves. And so then they tend to like not have enough stuff that they need. So sage can actually be very good at increasing like your metabolism and your appetite for those Sagittarians who get stuck in the I've forgotten to eat phase, right? Or it can also actually do the opposite and help control that appetite for those who are stuck in the I'm just eating all the time phase because of the Jupiter influence in my chart, right? So it works really well for that. It also works really well on the mind, calming the mind, helping focus the mind, helping you be able to see again that big picture that Sagittarius is supposed to see and stay grounded to the earth by helping energy move up and out of the body and drill it down more of that necessary energy into the feet to ground you to the earth. Then we have turmeric. Turmeric is a very hot, drying herb, which is a good association with that Sagittarius fire, right? This herb is very popular in our society today. I see it recommended by anybody and everybody for anything and everything that has to do with inflammation, and this is so not how it's to be used and so not how that works with herbs. you have to look at the energetics of a herb compared with what's currently going on in somebody's constitution, right? So if you're a native Sagittarian who is experiencing a lot of inflammation in your body, but you're also experiencing showing me that you have a very hot, dry constitution, giving you a very hot, drying herb is going to do what? I'll give you a moment. It's going to aggravate the condition and make things worse. So if you have a person who comes to, wherever, complaining of arthritis in the knees, which is what I commonly see this given for, and the reason they're having pain in their knees from arthritis is like an inflammation process instead of anything else, right? Then you give them a very hot, drying herb. Now you're drying everything out and making it worse. You're causing more inflammation potentially, and you're exacerbating the issue instead of helping the issue. So this is why it's super important to not just see something about a herb and go run out and take it for yourself and expect that you're going to get that exact result, because A, everybody is different, and B, you have to know the energetics of the herb compared with the energetics that your body is currently experiencing and whether or not that herb is going to help. So I see ads all the time for turmeric that are like, hey, take this for your arthritis, or our blend for arthritis pain includes, turmeric, or sometimes it'll be under curcumin. But either way, it's like, oh, and then people will say, you'll have two sides of the story, right? You'll have all the reviews that this thing worked wonderfully great for me, because what had going on in that body was probably something moist and damp that was causing issues. And then you have others that are like, this didn't work at all, or it made things worse. And those are the people that probably already had a hot, dry constitution that are just aggravating it by adding more hot and dry to it. So if you're going to proceed with using a herb, a consultation with a skilled herbalist is a very good idea, so that you have somebody who can look at all that for you and help you understand how your body works and which herbs would be best. Because you're going to potentially cause yourself more grief, and then you're going to fall in the camp of, well, herbs don't work. And it's not that herbs don't work, it's that that particular herb is just not one for you. So learning that is imperative as well. But that is a good one if someone is having pain and inflammation caused by swelling and like fluid buildup instead of hot, dry condition, right? Common health concerns that I see with Sagittarius, as I mentioned earlier, hip problems, sciatica, coccyx injuries, they tend to be the people who break their tailbones like way more frequently than anybody else. Musculoskeletal injuries and pains, inflammations, pain for unknown or sometimes known reasons, insomnia, burnout, like true nervous system burnout, where you wind up like in the hospital for like a week or two because everything is just shutting down because you are 100% truly burned out. I see this with a lot of performers. A lot of artists and singers especially tend to be Sagittarians. Probably because they, again, love people and they're outgoing and they like to travel. And if you're a singer and you become famous, what do you get to do? A lot of traveling. You're in a different venue. You get to write songs. You have something new all the time. And so it's really good for a lot of native Sagittarians. Demi Lovato is a Leo, but very similar in that fire energy. And we've seen her multiple times be admitted for nervous system burnout. And that's even worse than Sagittarians. So very, very common here. Nervous system irregularities, cramping and spasms in muscles, high blood pressure, usually from overdoing it or overindulging in stuff that's not good for you. Not always, but that's the usual cause of it, right? That something is going on in your body that you can't handle. And a lot of times when I mean from overdoing it, I mean like they've burned themselves out and their heart is just like, I just can't do this anymore. And it's being burned out too, right? So it's not necessarily from overindulging in like foods or anything. It can literally just be that they've overworked themselves to the point that even their heart is struggling now. So that's also a possibility. So how can we go about like holistically preventing and managing these, right? So vigorous daily movement that is balanced with good restorative sleep. Absolute number one priority here. Preferably do this daily movement out in the sun, right? Because this helps your body regulate melatonin production and then in turn will help with good sleep at night. So it's definitely outdoor activities work so much better for Native Sagittarians, for sure. And when I say vigorous daily movement, not to the point where you're burning yourself out, but give yourself a good like 20, 30 minutes where you're just going to go full on, whatever, and then stop. Set a timer if you fucking have to so that you don't forget and just keep going because you get into it and you forget and you burn yourself out, right? So definitely need that vigorous daily movement, especially movements that involve the hips and the thighs and the legs and like those muscles, especially. But definitely not where you're just forgetting and just keep going, right? Reduce or eliminate caffeine altogether. With the propensity to just go, 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 and burn out your adrenals and nervous system, y'all Native Sagittarians do not need any more stimulants in your body. Your body has enough all by itself. It's been creating tons all on its own. And so, again, I find though, because many Sagittarians like addictions to things occasionally, but they wind up drinking so much caffeine and it's more of like an addiction thing than it is they actually need it for any other reason thing, right? And then that can lead to creating high blood pressure for many Native Sagittarians as well. Honestly, completely eliminating and avoiding it altogether is 100% the better option for Sagittarians. Y'all just don't need it at all. You have enough of your own adrenaline that you'll be fine. Enjoy foods and herbs that nourish your spinal nerves and sheaths. So these include like wild oats and lemon balms for herb, as well as a diet that's really high in healthy fats and plenty of vitamin A in your diet, which you get from liver, eggs, especially are the two, fish, high fatty content fish. So like cod, so cod liver oil actually you can take and get plenty of vitamin A that way, as well as the omega, 3s and 6s. So it's a good, well-rounded type supplement. But you need plenty of vitamin A. This is a sun-ruled vitamin that Jupiter tends to not assimilate as well. And so Sagittarius, by default being ruled by Jupiter, does not always as well either. And lack of vitamin A in your body can lead to arteriosclerosis, hardening of your arteries and veins, and can lead to high blood pressure because it starts making things hard to move through the body. Your heart and your blood vessels need plenty of vitamin A to work efficiently. Leos also need plenty of vitamin A because they do rule the heart, so they need lots of it, way more than others, and they're ruled by the sun, which also rules vitamin A, by the way. So you need plenty of all of those. Again, prone to hip and blah, blah, blah. Getting those confused. Prone to hip and thigh issues, right? Which means working to strengthen these areas is a good idea. So a strength training program that focuses on the lower half of the body is an excellent addition to your daily movement. And again, that doesn't mean neglect the upper half, but definitely a stronger focus on the bottom half could work more in your favor, make you happier as well. And it's imperative with all of this like daily movement stuff that y'all don't stick to the same shit all the time because you're going to get bored and then what you're going to do, you're going to quit because it's boring to you. You need new and innovative and fun stuff for you. So like doing a 12-week program for you where you do like the same thing for 12 weeks would not work. Doing a 12-week program where every day is like a variety of things and it's new, maybe every week even, instead of every day, but weekly, it's new stuff. Absolutely perfect for you. Classes where it's, something different all the time, anything like that. Do yoga one day, like hot yoga one day, do strength training another day, go for a run outside, the other day. So vary it. You're not going to do well sticking to like one thing and never changing it. Sitting still can be an issue and can lead to an inability to focus, so make sure you're taking frequent breaks for standing, moving, or even finding a job that allows you to move while doing it will be absolutely best. Sagittarians, like I said, you see a lot of them as performers. You see them as artists of some kind, that like singing artists, things where they can move. Comedians, you ever seen a stand-up comedian? Most of them don't just stand in one spot the whole time. They're constantly moving. And a lot of Native Sagittarians tend to be stand-up comedians. So a job where you can move a lot is very helpful as well. Breathing exercises and meditation are two things that Native Sagittarians need much more of in your lives. Much more of, like way more than you think. You might think, I don't need that. You do. You need it probably more than even Gemini, which is saying a lot because Gemini needs a hell of a lot of it too. Water, 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 water. I'm going to keep saying this pretty much for every sign. You need to drink plenty of water, goddammit. Seriously, your blood pressure and your muscles will love you for it. Make sure you're getting electrolytes in there as well. And get outside in nature. The more time you spend outside in nature, the more your body regulates its hormones and the more your body gets happy and healthy. Not enough sunlight is literally the bane of human beings. Being stuck in offices all the time, it leads to dis-ease in the body. Your body needs lots and lots and lots and lots of time in the sun and spending time in nature. We are inexplicably linked to nature, and you need time in there. So overall, Sagittarius is an amazing, optimistic, adventurous sign. It's, like I said, full of comedians, performers, philosophers, and travelers alike. When taking good care of your nervous system health as well as your mental health, you will stay in your high expression and life will be good. So learning to balance all things in life will equal the life that you love. Giving yourself variety as well and not feeling like you have to be stuck in one place all the time. This is why it works so well, the lifestyle that we have chosen, because we don't like being stuck in one place all the time. All that Sagittarius in our chart has us constantly wanting to see and do new things. And that's exactly what we do with the way that we live, traveling in our van all the time. So highly recommend that if you are a Native Sagittarian and life is feeling dull and boring and you're just ready to, just be done with it all, to start changing things up. Find that joy again, whatever makes you joyous, and follow that path for as long as it feels joyous, and then change when you need to. So thank you for listening in today. I hope that really helped any Native Sagittarians or anybody who has a Native Sagittarian in their life listening in today. Remember, if you haven't already, to go join my Astro Connection community on Discord. I would absolutely love you to be there. It's a great place. I do a lot of education in there and just chit-chatting with everybody, and I would love to get to know you better. So the link for that is in the show notes. If you haven't already, go listen to my previous episode where I tell you all the cool stuff that's coming up in September for you to come find me at. I would love to see you there too. Sign up for my newsletter if you haven't already, because I send those out weekly and sometimes occasionally for special stuff as well. On top of that, that is just chock full of great information and all of the upcoming events and places you can find me and all that fun stuff. So that link is in the show notes as well. Find me on Instagram. I would love to see you there. Those links are there. And anywhere else you need me, that link is in there as well. I would love to see you guys if you're interested in a medical astrology reading to know more about how being a Native Sagittarian can affect your health, your life, your mental health, physical health, spiritual health, and just how your body is designed to work. Then there is a link in the show notes as well to come sign up for a medical astrology reading with me. I would love to help you with that and be honored to do so. I will talk to you guys later. Love and light. That's it for another great episode of The Herbal Liar. Tune in next week for more valuable content with your host, Ayar Atla.